This episode is proudly sponsored by HASA, the trusted choice for liquid chlorine. It's better because it offers the highest purity, works instantly, and contains no added CYA. By the bottom feeder, professional-grade battery-powered swimming pool vacuum system, it sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off the bottom feeder with code DVB100. Skimmer, trusted by over 30,000 pool service professionals across North America. Skimmer software helps you save time, grow revenue, and boost your 5-star reviews. Whether you're just starting out or expanding your team, Skimmer's easy-to-use tools and expert support have you covered. Upgrade your business in 2025 with Skimmer. Try Skimmer for 30 days for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over one of the aspects of commercial pool service, which is a public pool, either in an apartment complex, a HOA complex, a hotel, motel, YMCA. And the one thing that you're going to deal with is the health department, and specifically a health department employee that's really difficult to deal with or extremely picky about the codes and how you're servicing that pool. Join my coaching program and take your pool service to the next level. Connect with other pool pros in your area, gain valuable knowledge, and transform your business with personalized one-on-one advice from me. With over 36 years of experience, I'm here to help you succeed like never before. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com. The first thing you want to do when you do commercial pool service is get familiar with your county's codes. And this is really important because if you're CPO certified, it may not be the same thing as your particular county and what they require as far as some of the things you learned in the class. Some counties are stricter with the requirements, and some counties actually want you to get certified through their county. For instance, in Los Angeles County, if you have certain inspectors come by and you're CPO certified, they may want you to also be certified through the LA County public health test that you take for pool operators in the county, which, by the way, is not an easy test. It's actually pretty difficult, and some inspectors I've noticed lately have been wanting pool service pros in my county to be certified through their particular testing. But one thing you can do is to make sure that you are keeping the pool in the right parameters, because if you get a difficult inspector and they're questioning your chemistry, if you don't know what they're looking for and what they're basing that off of, because one thing you have to know is that any inspector is just using their code or their particular parameters, and they're measuring that against how you're taking care of that pool. So they may be difficult as far as personality. They may come across as, someone who's in charge and they're walking all over you in some cases. But realistically, it boils down to, is the pool within the ranges that are specified by the county? And if you don't know that, then you're at a disadvantage. It's really easy to find. If you are just, like in my county, for instance, you can just Google something to the effect of Los Angeles County Public Pool Chemistry Guidelines for service providers. And you'll get to a page where they actually have the guidelines, and they actually have the recommended ranges for you for LA County. So here is the free chlorine, minimum 2.0 parts per million, maximum 10 parts per million. That's really crucial because if you are doing a pool and the health department cites you and they say that, the pool has way too much chlorine, you're at 8 parts per million. If you know that the county allows you to have 10 parts per million, you can just counter back very simply by saying, you know what, I just checked, and you don't want to argue, of course, but you can clarify that the county says 10 parts per million. When you tested it that day, you're at 8, and so you're actually within range. Although ideally they want you between 2 and 3 parts per million, which is hard to do. I always keep my commercial pools on the high side. Of course, you don't want to go over 10 parts per million, and I don't actually actively do any commercial pools anymore, but I used to do a lot of commercial pools in LA County, which was a lot dealing with the health department in the area. Of course, for spas, it's also, they want you at 3 to 4 parts per million is the ideal. And the minimum chlorine in a spa, like a detached hot tub or spa, at a facility is actually 3 parts per million. So recognize that distinction. The actual pool they'll let you have 2 parts per million, but the spa they want at 3 parts per million. If you have someone who's difficult, they'll actually shut down your spa if it drops below 3 parts per million. So always keep that higher. And of course, you have that 10 parts per million maximum in Los Angeles County for spas as well. Now, if you have bromine, if it's an indoor facility and you're using bromine, you actually can go up to 22 parts per million with bromine in a pool, and they want the bromine in a spa at 4 parts per million. So this is actually a little bit different. So you have to know the distinction there. A lot of counties are also testing for the oxygen reduction potential, or ORP, in the pool water. This is really big in Europe, and it's coming over to America kind of slowly, but your local health department may check for the ORP. For Los Angeles County, the minimum is 650 MV with a maximum of 900 MV. Now, if the pH is in range and the free chlorine is in range, the ORP number should be above 650 MV when they test it. It's basically the pH being in range and the free chlorine level being over maybe 4 parts per million. And you'll get a pretty good ORP reading at that point. You, of course, probably should have an ORP tester with you, a digital ORP tester, so you can check that. Now, the pH is something that I think a lot of health inspectors, and the difficult ones, are going to be really on you about this. The ones that aren't quite as detailed understand that pH fluctuates day to day, and it's one of those things where it can't be in range all the time, but they do have a minimum pH of 7.2 and a maximum of 7.8. Now, if you just keep the pool fairly balanced and you're within that range of 7.4 to 7.8, maybe even a little higher sometimes, they'll let it slide. But a lot of times they'll be really hard on you when the pH is below 7.2. I had a health department person that when I was doing, it was a mobile home park, and it was for 55 and older seniors. So they really use this a lot, and they use the hot tub a lot. And as you know, if there's a lot of people using the hot tub, the pH tends to drop down. And this, I was closed a couple times on me because the pH did get below 7.2. And of course, it does cause skin irritation, and it may cause itchy skin and maybe a rash in some cases if it gets too low. But this is something that I kept battling and fighting. Now, if the hot tub is used a lot, the jets are going to raise the pH, of course. But sometimes these hot tubs will tend to go down in pH a lot, and this is something that is a battle with the health department with low pH. In a pool, not so much so. It's a bigger body of water, and you have a lot easier time controlling the pH in there. Now, here's a big one: cyanuric acid. Now, if you are maintaining a commercial pool that you're using trichlor tablets in, it's going to raise cyanuric acid pretty rapidly in that pool, and the health department wants the cyanuric acid between 30 and 50 parts per million. Interesting enough, if the cyanuric acid is at 0, that's their minimum for cyanuric acid. So they really can't close the pool down if it's at 0 or if it's at 10. Ideally, they want it at 30 to 50 parts per million. But the thing that they're going to really be on you about is if it gets over 100 parts per million. So you may want to do partial drains or longer backwashes with the sand filter. If the cyanuric acid gets above 100 parts per million, they technically can shut the pool down, although it depends on the person. They may ask you to drain some water. They may shut the pool down. They may not. But their code does say a maximum of 100 in Los Angeles County, so be aware of that. Alkalinity is interesting. They don't want it going below 80, but a lot of times you have to be in the low range in order for you to control the pH in the pool. So this is a difficult battle, but they want it between 100 and 150, and they have a really high range of 180. So alkalinity usually isn't something to be too worried about. Calcium hardness is something that's really hard in California to get in the range they want, which is 200 to 300, maximum 500. So you don't have to be in the ideal ranges most of the time, but you do have to be within range of the health department what they want as far as the calcium hardness. If you are dealing with someone who's reasonable, they'll really focus on the free chlorine and the combined chlorine, mainly, and the pH. And the other numbers, they understand, fluctuate, and they're not going to be too hard on you. They certainly shouldn't close the pool down if your calcium hardness is too high, but they will close the pool down if your free chlorine is too low. So keep that in mind and focus on what's important, which is the free chlorine in the pool and the combined chlorine. They may test for copper and iron. If you're using the Pool RX in this particular commercial pool, they may test high for copper or iron, you may have to explain to them they're using the Polar X product in the pool, which is EPA certified and which is fine to use in a commercial pool, but you may have to educate the health department employee that the copper reading is not going to be accurate because the Polar X has a chelating factor that suspends the copper and minerals in there, and they'll probably get it if they have been doing this a while. They're not going to hassle you on having any kind of mineral technology in the commercial pool, but it has to be an EPA certified product for you to use in a commercial pool. That said, if you know this and you have some ammunition against the inspector, it's a good start to have all of this. And you should, of course, also have the codes and the guidelines. You can find that easily also by Googling, County of Los Angeles, Department of Public Health, guidelines for pool operators. Simple as that. Tennessee, I don't know what county would be in there, but you can Google, County of so-and-so, Department of Public Health, guidelines for pool operators. And they'll actually have the guidelines posted there, and they'll have what you have to do. Like, for example, this is something that you may not know if you're doing commercial pools unless you look it up. But if you are in Los Angeles County and the facility has 25 or more units, if it's a large apartment, they actually want you to have someone test the chemistry on the days that you're not there. You have to keep a log as well of the chemistry. That's kind of basic. And you want to make sure that the spa does not go over 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Most heaters won't let you go over 104, so that's probably something that's pretty easy. You also have to be, certified to do commercial pools either through the county or a CPO certification. Again, LA County is pushing back a little bit on the CPO certifications in some areas, so be aware of that. But it's actually pretty simple. It's usually a one-page thing that outlines all the important things that are the actual codes for servicing a commercial pool. Now, I know I spent a lot of time going over these details because I find that these are extremely important when you're dealing with someone who's new to the job that's inspecting the pool. You, as the pool service provider, need to educate the health department employees sometimes in a really clear way that's not condescending, of course, not aggressive because they can make your life miserable, but just simply in a conversation. And they're really reasonable when you talk to them. I've had many conversations over the years with them and just do a back and forth conversation. Something like, oh, I noticed that I was cited for this particular thing. How do you want me to maintain this pool? Simple, easy, clear, and giving them a chance to tell you what they want. You don't want to say anything like, this is an unreasonable expectation, or this is not what the code says. If you throw those things at them, it may add fuel to the fire. But try to get from them what they expect you to do and see if it matches the code. And if it matches the code, then they're probably right. And if they are going to have, if they're specifically wanting everything up to code, that's a little bit of a problem because it's really hard to do on a day-to-day basis. And once you get to know the person, they may not close the pool down as much as they do at the beginning, but there may just be people that, really take their job extremely seriously, and they're going to be a problem for you at that particular account. There are things you can escalate it to their supervisor if you need to, and that's something that you may need to do in some cases, and you have that option to have a supervisor step in at that point. You'll find that these codes are really inconsistently enforced from inspector to inspector. If you're doing a lot of commercial pools and you have different inspectors inspecting it, they may want different things. And so this is something also that makes it difficult. It makes it really difficult dealing with these inspectors is that one may say something, someone else may want something else. So you have to kind of know the inspector. If you keep the logs of the chemistry and you keep them accurate, if you have the proper testers, I recommend a photometer tester. That way you have a printout, a digital reading of the pool, and you can compare it to what they're saying your pool's at that particular day. Now, if they do hassle you on certain things, make sure that you have the proper tools, like I mentioned, a photometer getting the good readings, or a P meter, and you also have other tools at your disposal, which is the right to have them re-inspected as soon as possible. So if the pool is closed down and you get everything back to where it's supposed to be. Now, there are certain situations where the pool has to be closed automatically if there's any kind of feces in the water or vomit, things like that. But of course, if they close you down for having the chemicals out of range, this is a big blow to you because the apartment complex or the manager is going to be really upset the customers, which are the tenants, are going to be upset. So you want to make sure you get that pool reopened as soon as possible. So get everything balanced and then reschedule the appointment as soon as possible. Sometimes they'll be out there the next day, usually pretty fast, and you want to get that reinspection as soon as possible to get the pool back open. Sometimes the management company can call for the reinspection for you. That's fine. But generally, I don't think I had too many pools closed down on me when I was doing a lot of commercial pools. I had, of course, spas closed down for that reason, that the pH was too low. This person was really tough to deal with, really difficult, but he was going by the code, I guess, in some respects. Some of them will be a little more lenient. I mentioned before that I had this one apartment complex where they had the pool in the center. It was surrounded by, I think, 4 stories of apartments, and the pool was just killed all the time. I was backwashing it all the time. There's actually code on backwashing, by the way. You can look that up for your county. I was backwashing the filter, cleaning it all the time. The pool still was not clearing up, and the health department inspector had a lot of mercy. I couldn't see the bottom a lot of the times, and it still passed every time he inspected it, because he kind of figured looking at it. And I think he was there one time and it was like full of kids. It's one of those things where he's like, yeah, this pool is being killed and there's not much the person can do. Really cool, really nice about it. And I don't think he ever closed that pool down when he probably should have, because the water quality was terrible. I did keep the chemistry in range though, so that's something that it was a plus for me. But there are differences in personalities. And bottom line of this podcast is that if you know the code, know what they're looking for, if they're inconsistent in some ways, you definitely want to point that out in a nice way. You can't escalate it if you need to. It's a good idea sometimes to have the management company do all of that for you. Like if it's an apartment, have the apartment manager call the health department and try to get them to give them clear guidelines of why they closed the pool and what they need to do. And it's not you're not the person that's kind of acting as a middleman. You're just a pool service provider. They're actually directly contacting the health department, because actually when they close the pool down, they'll inform the management mainly. They'll post a letter they'll make sure that the management's aware of it, and they're the ones who probably should be calling for the reinspection. But you as the provider, if you do meet the health department, if for some chance they get there and you're there, or if they want to meet with you on the site, that's perfectly fine as well. Make sure that you go over what their expectations are, what the codes are, and you should know these. If you don't know the codes and know the chemistry ranges, they're going to doubt that you can maintain this pool already. So be aware of it. Maybe keep a cheat sheet on your phone so you kind of know what the codes are. And you want to just, of course, make sure that you do what they want you to do to get things corrected. If you're pushing back, if you're not listening to them, and you want to have a battle with them, that's a battle that you're going to lose, because you're not going to win against the county on any level. So just be aware of that. Yes, they're going to be difficult. They're going to be hard to deal with, but that's part of what you get paid for when you do a commercial account, and that's part of what you signed up for when you take on commercial service accounts. So if you are stepping into commercial service accounts, if you're doing them now, the health department is something that you're going to have to deal with. And be aware of that. You're getting paid for that. You should charge a premium for that commercial pool because of all the extra record keeping, all the extra time sometimes to get things into compliance, and just the headache factor of dealing with the county. If you're looking for other podcasts I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Just go ahead and click on the podcast icon at the banner. That'll drop. You have a menu of over 1,500 podcasts. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.